Hello. All right, let me see. Check our settings here. Okay, should be good. Hey, what's going on, guys? All right, let me kind of move some stuff around here and get us going. Happy, well, I was going to say Friday afternoon. I don't know why it sort of feels like one. It's not Friday, it is Monday, in fact, isn't it? Happy Monday afternoon. I was going to be doing this last Friday. Maybe that's why I had Friday on the mind, but had to postpone to today here for this live stream, for today's live stream. So let me go ahead and get the first entry loaded up, and we can start talking about Ryan's work to start us off for this episode. But as always, guys, if you have never seen any past episodes before, in these episodes, basically, I'm going to be taking a look at some works in progress and or completed works. And these are ones, builds that are submitted by some of my Patreon supporters. So if you guys are interested in sending in works for review for future episodes, you can check out my Patreon. There's a link down in the video description below. And there's different rewards on there. One of them is that you can also get access to our Discord as well, Discord server. And then another one is for if you would like to submit works here for critique. So basically what I try to do in these episodes is just to give my critique, which is I try to be helpful in criticism, pointing out things that I like, pointing out areas that I think could be done differently or improved upon. And, like I said, some of the stuff that we're going to see in these episodes is already completed. So at that point, you can't really change things, but it's things that you can maybe learn from for future builds, or if they're still works in progress, then, changes can still ultimately be made. But what's the time here now? The time is just after 3 p.m. in the afternoon. So just to say hey to some people here. Mafiu is here. Let's see, David. Feels like a weekend today. I feel it's weird. It's because it's the holiday this week here in America, at least Thanksgiving this week. So it's kind of crazy. Brian and Travis, what's going on? Truth Seeker, Liam Poe Shake. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. But what's going on? And Edgar's got some work we can take a look at next. I'm going to pull up Ryan's here first. Let me go ahead and put this on the screen here for us. Let's see. This one right here. This is what I want. Okay. So, yeah. So we have, I think, 5 different entries that we're going to be looking at for today. A lot of like concept stuff, so like very early stage and or like kind of concept ideas. So I guess like out of 5, a number of them out of 5 is going to be like kind of concept. David included here, this one that we're going to be seeing, and let's just go ahead and skip right to this image here first. So like this is what he's working on using the gym, the MG 2.0, wanting to make a. Let me just also pull up his email here so I can share that with you guys. It was a Neo Italy idea. So for ideas for a Neo Italy gym, he wanted to do a Roman style helmet, but have not had success making something passable. He had the idea to make some minor changes to the gym's head to suggest a Roman helmet instead, making a few modifications, helmet, pauldron, shield, weapons, and hoping the paint job will do a lot of heavy lifting as far as the look goes. Shoulder pauldrons are just paper mock-ups at the moment. Oh, it looks like. And then in his second email here, I think these are also, this look like plot plate that we have for the kind of update email here. But these are maybe done with bent plot plate, possibly. It doesn't. That's some thick paper if it's paper. But as far as just the concept goes, I think, like, looking at these photos at first, I will say that at first I didn't know, like, if maybe this was before I even read the email or saw the later photos, when I realized, oh, okay, I can see what he's going for there with the top of the head. I thought it was just kind of sort of uh, checking what it would look like as like an open hatch kind of thing, wanting to modify it to look like the top of the head can like open up like that. So just sort of making a kind of like stand-in piston detail kind of thing, which I thought was a cool idea. But honestly, I think this is a really good way to do what excuse me, what you're trying to do for making the head. I think it's like the rest of the helmet is going to be like kind of the tricky part uh, around there. But as far as like using the top of the Jim's head basically as what's going to be like the kind of headdress part on the helmet is a cool idea. You still have to, I mean, like there's still a lot to be done on this, of course. But I also think that the mock-up for the shoulder armor is also looking nice. It's just an idea. This is just one of those ideas that is going to take a lot of work. So you have to be like really dedicated to it, and because it's going to take just a lot of time, I think, to really do what you want to do. And there's certain builders I know that could probably knock out something like this much faster than the rest of us, perhaps. But I mean, I think for most of us, because you're looking at obviously, you like you said, you're hoping that the paint is going to do a lot of the heavy lifting. But I think another thing to keep in mind is that there is, I mean, like, there's a lot of work to be done in the modifications. But I think, like, even for these shoulder armor bits, I think, like, so let's say for one shoulder, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers. And then I think what would be a great idea to add onto each one of those layers is like a line of plot plate going around the edge as well to make like a raised edge, so that when you paint it, you can like paint like the gold trim or whatever color you're ending up wanting to make it, so that you can paint like a raised detail. So if you, I mean, and that's not necessarily the hardest thing to do. You basically can just take a rod of like a square 1mm plot plate and basically like cut pieces and just kind of glue them along the edge there. So not necessarily all that difficult. Maybe this is paper. It kind of looks thick in another picture, but anyway. Yeah, number one, like just bending and shaping the plot plate like that, I think might be kind of difficult. So that'll be the first thing. And yeah, then I think using some like 1mm square rod plot plate to make a line around the edge, not too difficult, but it's going to take some time, considering you're making a line around the edge of 5 pieces for one shoulder times 2, 10 pieces that you need to make a line around. And then that's just the shoulder armor. And then you have to have a way, of course, built on the inside of that, and like how to connect the pieces together. I think, again, probably you're just going to be using some kind of, let's see, what would work best for that. Depending on like how you want to stick it together. And then you also have to mount it actually like onto the shoulder. So just mounting that, like if you're wanting to just mount that just onto the top of the existing shoulder armor, is probably easier. But if you're wanting to make that into the shoulder armor itself, which I think you could probably, on that note, you could probably go larger than this, because like as it is, it's very large. But I mean, I think you could go like slightly bit longer with it. So right now, like this mock-up works pretty well to hide the original shoulder armor in there. You can see it like poking out here a little bit at the bottom. But just to make sure that like whether you're going to use the existing shoulder armor inside there or not, but to make sure that the new shoulder armor either completely hides that or completely substitutes it by covering the same amount of space, basically, if not more. But I mean, like, just because the Jim is such a kind of like slender design, you don't necessarily want to have the shoulders too big that they look kind of like cartoonishly large. So it'll be kind of a difficult challenge to just kind of get the size quite right. But it's a good idea to just work with paper first, because that's very easy to just quickly kind of shape and kind of get the idea of how big exactly you want the pieces to be. It's 1.5. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's 1.5 plot plate. Yeah, so I thought it was looking kind of thicker. Maybe this is the paper one over here on this side. This is the plot plate one. Anyway, yeah. I would say, Yeah, I think the size is basically right. I mean, you just have to get it so that they're kind of um, all in like the correct lengths and not kind of going like up and down, like in terms of the lengths, but just getting them like kind of uniform to get the shape quite right. But yeah, the shoulder armor, getting that shaped. Let's see, and I think the helmet's probably going to be the difficult part, because then adding some of these other parts here in and around the waist section, I'm not exactly sure what you're envisioning for the midsection. I guess just something similar to the shoulder armor that you want to add here on the middle section, which again, I mean, if you figure out how to do the shoulder armor and you're able to pull that off, then I think just basically adopting a kind of similar modification to fit around the midsection should be pretty straightforward. And then this kind of the detail here at the front of the crotch, I'm not really sure what to call that. I think also should be relatively simple, just basically using some rods. I mean, you could even use pieces of runners for that too. Just to make some rods and then some kind of chain sort of detail there, I guess, at the bottom, right? But yeah, the helmet's going to be the hardest thing. But I think starting off with the shoulders is probably a good place to start, because like I said, that'll give you a good idea of just kind of how to get the plot plate kind of into like the shapes that you want. And then you can kind of go from that experience to make the middle section, which will probably be easier, and the head section, which will probably be harder. But by that point, you've already had some good practice working on like the shoulder and the midsections, that it'll be at least be a little bit easier to work on that part there on the head. But yeah, I think it's a cool idea. I'm guessing the color layout is based on like which parts would be skin tone, and you're making like the skin tone parts in this tan kind of color. I can't say that I'm really for that. I've seen that done at different times, like when people make custom builds like this, they're kind of based off of either different like game or anime characters or something like that. Like for example, I've seen like a Dragon Ball Z themed build, for example. I don't remember if I actually have or not, but just like easy to imagine. And usually when people make like Gundam builds based off of characters in some way, and then like try to just like paint parts of the kit in like skin tone color to like basically match what it would look like if you just laid like a photo of like a what did you call it? It's not Spartan. That's what I keep thinking. Is that right? No. Laid an image of this. What is it? Anyway, just a Roman soldier. Anyway, over the top of this gym and say like, okay, the soldiers got just like bare arms, so I'm gonna make the gym's arms in skin tone like that. In my personal opinion, I don't think it looks good. Whenever I've seen it done, that doesn't mean that it can't be. I mean, it's not worth a try and not worth doing if you're committed to that idea. But I would say probably sticking in more, not necessarily trying to make parts of it look like skin tone, but just sticking to like a kind of Roman themed color scheme. Like if you can imagine, okay, like if Romans were to make a gigantic robot, what kind of colors would it be? What would be some kind of like in theme colors if there was a Roman gym, basically? Would be my recommendation as far as the color schemes go. But I think to your point about the color scheme will do a lot to sell the look of a Roman soldier. I think it can still do that. I'm not exactly sure what colors that would be. I'm not like a big Roman soldier historian, so I couldn't tell you. But anyway, I think it's a cool concept, cool idea. It's going to definitely take some work, but if you can stick with it, I think it'll be a cool result in the end. So looking forward to seeing some updates on that. And yeah, if you need help with that, I mean, certainly, submit some more photos and information to the next episode, or just kind of we can talk about it in the Discord as well. So there was that one. Let's see. I said I did want to take a look at Edgar's next. I saw Edgar's here, which is another kind of concept that he's working on in the early stages here. So take a look at his Calibarn with some Crossbone Gundam. Let me see. some Crossbone Gundam crossover. All right, let's see. Okay, here we are. Okay, so for this one, this is his build that he's working on for the contest, and just I did let the guys know, like on Patreon, that if they are working on a build for the contest, that it is okay for them to submit that. So that's fine. He said the idea behind this build is a more advanced version of the Crossbone Gundams, still planning to modify the rifle so it has a javelin end similar to the Crossbone X2s. Modifications so far: adding the skull on the head, reshaping the V-fin, adding front and back hip armor. Okay. And let's see, adding pointy ankle armor and extending the waist. Okay. Yeah, so I think some of the modifications in particular, of course, I think will like work really, really well just to the design. And this is still a work in progress, but let's see, there's a close-up. Yeah, adding the skull onto the front there, I think just the shape of that part already looks so very similar to the shape of the forehead part there for the Crossbone Gundam, so that works well. Adding that skull on there, reshaping the V-fin also works well to make it kind of more Crossbone-like, right? With that more kind of like aggressive V-fin. Adding the backpack on there, of course, is also going to help a lot to give it that Crossbone look. The back skirts and the front skirts added. Let's take a look at those. The front skirts, I think, work a lot better than the back skirts do. But let me see a good photo to be able to tell. Because I think the front skirts blend in pretty good here with the design. So the trouble that you have is just like the design of the thighs of the Calibarn and just like the Aerial Gundam and other Gundams from this series so far are like quite unique there. But the front skirts, I think, work pretty well. The back skirts look very small, like in the back. That I'm not really sure if there's a whole lot that you could really do about that. So let me just see here. Unless you wanted to just use something differently entirely, which if you're like wanting to, I mean, it's not going to be anything that I think anyone's going to pay that much time really paying attention to the size of the back skirts, for example, but like it's something to think about, either completely omitting them or adding some back skirts. You know what you could do, which again, I'm not really sure how this might look, but something to consider would be maybe like the back skirts of the MG Crossbone. Then they would still be like just basically taking them directly from the Crossbone, but they would be larger. You could try that. That either might be too large or it might just look weird. But as it is, I think also just because it's on the back, I know you're going like trying to make it look more like the Crossbone, but they don't necessarily have to be the exact skirts from the Crossbone. I mean, you could use back skirt parts from something else. Just kit bash back skirt parts from a different kit that has something a little bit larger, but could still fit generally the shape that you're going for. I think could also work just as well. The front skirts is what people are obviously going to see and pay much more attention to, and they're pretty obviously clearly the like Crossbone style ones there. And I think just like size and shape wise, the front skirts work pretty well as it is. Otherwise, yeah, adding like to the weapon, obviously changing the weapon, and the modifications to the ankle armor as well, I think look pretty cool. And then here's what he's got going for. This is just kind of like a map out of the color scheme. I think that color scheme will also help a lot, because remember, you're not necessarily as far as like contest goal wise, not necessarily trying to make the Calibarn look like the Crossbone Gundam, but make the Calibarn look like it's a Calibarn that exists in UC. So it still needs to look like a Calibarn, but the UC elements that he's applying onto this is like obviously Crossbone era. So things like obviously the very iconic the skull and crossbones on the head. The color scheme will also help a lot, because that certainly is kind of a pretty UC color scheme with that much gray. But just something to keep in mind as far as like what the goal should be as far as like the contest goes. And I think it's a really cool concept. I mean, even if it's whatever happens with the contest wise, it'll still be a really cool project at the end of the day, I think, because I think what you've got going on here so far is quite interesting. But just something to keep in mind, that it still needs to look like Calibarn, but in the UC universe. So I think it's coming along good. Let's see, was the last thing that you mentioned was the extension at the waist section, which I think works pretty well. I think it doesn't necessarily do anything to make it look like the Calibarn in the UC universe. So like I'm talking about like what's the kind of goal for the contest. The modification to the waist, I mean, it can be a cool modification to the kit. I'm not sure if it does really too much like towards the theme of the contest, but I mean, as far as just a general modification to the kit, I think it works fine. Let's see, if I can tell like that modification at the waist and also the modification at the ankle armor still in the refining stages. So I mean, just make sure that those get cleaned up and then detailed accordingly, like in this little section, kind of adding in here, as far as like what you can do to detail that or something. I mean, I think there's probably different things you could do, adding some like vent details or something like on the side of that, just making it look a bit more substantial other than just like this kind of like little block right there. That's just kind of like an extension piece. And the same thing here for the ankle armor, adding some kind of detail. And I think what you could do is just like look at just some like little cutout pieces. I mean, like scribing, of course, or adding some kind of scribed detail in there. Otherwise, just kind of notching the shape a little bit. Like here you can see like here at the knee, there's that little like cutout notch. It's not that large, but something like that, like here at the back edge. Just make the back edge so it's not just like a straight line, just to make the shape just look like a little bit more interesting than just like a plain white triangle with like without any detail on it. So I think either like right here on the top, adding like a little cutout notch, something right there, but then that basically would just kind of make the ankle armor look like a swoosh maybe. So I think like along this back leading edge, I think would be a good spot for a detail, something along those lines. Alternatively, yeah, that'd probably be a good bet. I don't know, but there's other things, of course, that you could do, just depending on what you want to do with that. But again, if you're wanting to make it look, I mean, a good source to look at would be like look at some of the other different Gundam designs from Crossbone, for example. If that's kind of the area that you're looking into for ideas, see what like some of the different ankle armor looks like on some of those different Gundams and kind of try to get some ideas from that. But so far it's coming along good. Right now, let's see, what is it? We have like 3 weeks left about. So hopefully you can be finishing up some of those modifications and then getting to work on the painting and everything so that you have plenty of time to finish. But still plenty of time, I think. It seems like the majority of the modifications are kind of basically there, and just kind of everything needs to just be refined a bit more and then just started on the painting, which fortunately these Witch from Mercury kits are just designed in a way that makes them very easy to paint. So that shouldn't be too difficult of a step, too time consuming. Just thought the standard torso was too stocky. Yeah, I understand. So yeah, and I don't think that like either, like if you're thinking about it like for the, again, along the goal, the lines of the goal for the contest, either a stocky or a more elongated torso is kind of, neither of which is necessarily would make me think of, oh, that's either like UC or like UC universe torsos are generally stocky. It's just there's not, that's not the case. It just kind of really depends on the design. So I think that like I said, that modification doesn't really do anything as far as plus or minus towards the goal of the contest, but it's a fine modification, sure. All right, let's take a look at David's next. This is something a little bit different, a kit that I've not really, oops, didn't want to do that. Hang on, gonna have to take a minute here. I won't spoil the surprise yet, but it's a kit that I've not built or reviewed or anything, and also a kit that I'm sure I've not ever taken a look at in one of these episodes. And even in like, just trying to think of like any sort of similar, like in like the live streams with Josh, Plamono Trend or something. I don't even think we've ever really taken a look at this kit before, just because it's not the most common one. All right, here we go. Let's take a look at this. This one is Kotobukiya's Wonder Woman kit. Yes. So it's kind of an interesting experiment from Kotobukiya to put out this, what did they call it? I don't know. It'd be like Hiro Bishoujo or something. But this model kit here of Wonder Woman. And so this is David's painted build. And let's see. So this is basically just a painted build. He said, reading from his email here, with some seam line removal. I used the black base method for most of the non-metallics. So that would be as in like you start with a black surfacer as your black base coat, and then you build your colors up from there. Mainly SMS paints and Tamiya for the flesh tones. The face is also painted and shaded with the decals applied. Didn't like the pre-painted faces as it has a completely different texture to the rest of the build. Okay, so yeah, like I said, was not a big fan of just the design of this build, which is why, or this kit, which is why I skipped it. Because normally any of Kotobukiya's like different Mecha Musume or different Musume kits, I'm a big fan of course, but this one I skipped over. But this is a really nice looking build of it. And I know kind of what are some of the general like things to look out for in building kits like this. So like, for example, the seam line removal, the joints, and everything. So like one of the dangers of doing this, and he's very brave to put this in different poses and things, because these kits like this, you know, very easy to scratch the paint on these little delicate parts and things as you're moving around in different poses. But the metallics on here look really great. I mean, like, it's really nicely done. So the only thing that really stood out to me, like looking through the pictures before, which I know is one of the challenges of doing kits like this, is the placement of the eye decals. They look like very, very slightly not straight. It's kind of hard to tell, and it may just be the angle of the photo. But I know that that's a really, you wouldn't think of it as being a really challenging part, because generally on like Gundam model kits and anything else, like in like 1/100 scale, 1/44 scale model kits that we're used to, and like just putting decals on, you can be off by, I don't want to say like a large amount, but there you can be off by a fair amount, and it's really not noticeable. But like, I think it's just because it's a face. Like, just as humans, we recognize faces, and we much more easily recognize imperfections in faces like that. So getting the eye decal straight is really tough, and it's difficult to do perfectly. So that was the only thing that like I immediately noticed, because otherwise, I mean, like all the colors and everything I really, really like on this. The gold in this kind of more, what would you call it? Anyway, I like how the gold looks. I can't think of the word. It's sort of like a more antique kind of gold. I know that's not the right word for it, but anyway, the gold and the silver look really nice. The blue with the kind of black used for like the panel lining on that. It looks like maybe some of the panel linings may be like a bit messier in certain areas than others, but I think generally just like the colors and everything looks nice. The darker red in here again as well. So the color choice is the black for the hair, which is just, it's like an off black, right? But all the colors and the paints used are really nice. So those worked out really well, and nicely presented here. So we got some really nice photographs here of the kit with the nice black background on it. But you can see there's a couple of bits here and there where it looks like maybe the paint is just kind of gets scratched off or just chipped or whatever, just from the posing of it. So that's why I say, like, it's very brave to attempt to do different poses here with the painted kits. I wouldn't do it, which is why I generally, especially when it comes to contest submissions, recommend you guys don't do it, because I would hate for you guys to work a lot of time and effort into a build, and then like for your final photos you're trying to submit it, and you submit some cool photos but you got paint scratched off here and there and stuff because you're worried about posing it when you really didn't have to do that. This is not for the contest at all, of course, or anything, but just when it comes to just the presentation of the kit. I recommend not posing your painted kits like more than once. I mean, like, get it in a pose and leave it like that. Simple tip is to use masking tape on the decal to keep them perfect distance apart. Yeah. You have to be very, very careful. Yeah. Yeah. To Mafiu's point there in the chat, talking about using masking tape. Yes, a lot of times that's what you'll see builders use, and it wouldn't be like a full piece of masking tape. A lot of times what I'll see people will use is using like multiple strips of, like, just cut your masking tape into like 1 millimeter strips, so like just like line of masking tape. You can like stick it on there. Then you don't need to worry quite so much about peeling the masking tape off and it like damaging anything, because it's such a thin piece and it's gonna like barely stick on there. But that's all you really need it for, is just like to stick and give you that line on there. So take a piece of masking tape. If you have 1 millimeter thick masking tape already, then you can just use that. But if you have anything wider, you just cut really thin strips. Just make sure that it's a straight line, and then you can use those for just laying across the faceplate, just to make sure everything's straight. So you can measure one side and measure the other side, and then connect the masking tape with the line straight across, and even like up and down as well, to get the like proper gap. And you can use the pre-painted faces for your measurements. So it's difficult, but you don't have to do that. You could just eyeball it. What I've done in the past, I just eyeballed it, and it takes a little bit of moving the decals around. And the thing is, just of course, you're on a time crunch, because you can only move the decals around so much before the decal is going to start to break down. So you do have to be a bit careful with it. Yeah, otherwise, no, I think it's really nice. It's cool. And again, I like to see something that I've never really taken a very close look at, and it's really nicely done. So very cool. Thank you for that, David. Let's see, who do we have left? Justin and Marine. Should we look at Marine's first? Let's do that, and then we'll look at Justin's last. So let's see. Gonna open this. This one as well is just a concept, and let me also pull up his email here if I can find that. It's going to be kind of very similar to the Crossbone one that we were just taking a look at as well, in terms of it being a contest entry. Okay, so the idea with this is to take the entry grade Strike Gundam and kind of make it look a bit more like the Unicorn Gundam, with some modifications that you can see kind of laid out here on this sketch. So let's see, it's a sketch. I'm just reading from his email here now. Let me make sure that it's looking good there for you guys. That if let's see, Strike Unicorn, the sketch is very rough. Won't be able to enter the contest to see if my idea worked. I'll get to it eventually. So yeah, an idea that he was working on for the contest, but will ultimately eventually do later, which is fine. I'm still happy to just kind of chat about the idea here. I'm not trying to turn the Strike into a unicorn. I'm not trying to build a unicorn out of a Strike. The idea is to take the Strike and apply the unicorn and unicorn mode design language to it. So yeah, I will not be changing the proportions. The modifications will simply be to the shapes, modifying the shapes, removing the round bits of the shoulders, filling in the hollow spaces on the top of the shoulder and the chest, and plan to add holders for the knives on the forearms. Okay. So like instead of like the beam tonfas on the strike or on the unicorn, to be able to hold the knives, the what are they called? Anyway, the strike Gundams knives there on the forearms. And let's see, and sand down some of the rounded surfaces in the lower legs, etc., and the head, obviously. Don't know yet what to do with the backpack. I'm tempted to just fill in the holes in the entry grade's back and paint it dark blue. Yeah. Speaking of colors, I was thinking of an off-white, desaturated dark blue, and purplish gray for the frame, tealish for the visor, and maybe no decals or red decals since they're iconic to the unicorn. Then tweak the other colors better to match. Yeah, I think it sounds like a cool idea. The question is just how far do you really want to modify it to look like the unicorn, or kind of where do you want to draw the line? I will say, I don't know if this was intentional, but the modification to the side skirt armor looking very familiar to a certain perfect grade strike Gundam that I've seen, if I do remember correctly. If you guys remember, on the perfect grade strike kit that I built, let me see if I can find a quick picture of it. PG strike. I made a similar modification to the side skirt. Maybe not a picture, but I have it in the video here, it looks like. Let me see. No, I've got a picture, but it's kind of hard to see the side skirt. Let's see. All right. I can show this to you guys. So let me change the screen here. It's off topic of Marine's build here, but that's fine. Just let me see. Give me a second. Oh no, I'm gonna do this. There we go. Okay. So yeah, if you guys remember this PG strike that I built, I made a couple of modifications to it. One of which was to the rifle, and the other, I did add the sword, the knives onto the kind of side of the arm, a little bit different way, but and the side skirt there, you can tell, like you can kind of see what I did there. Basically, yeah, I'm also not a big fan of the strike Gundam side skirts being as long as they are. They're like that in order to hold the knives, but in the case of what I wanted to do with mine, I didn't need that, and I just wanted to modify that. So just cut and modify the side skirt armor to be shorter and very similar in shape to what Marine's got planned here for his build here. But there's a nice little trip down memory lane with that PG build. Okay, back to the topic at hand here. So yeah, so you can see a kind of similar shape here for the side skirts. So I'm all for that, and definitely more in line with the Unicorn Gundam having the kind of smaller, more understated side skirts there. But as far as the forearms, the upper arms, yeah, I think that all looks pretty good. I would say to maybe shape that, if you look at the unicorn, it has like round aspects on the side of the leg, but on the front and the back of the leg, it's all pretty angular. So I think you could, on the strike, you can leave this round part right here, but make sure that this knee part, just get rid of all the rounded edges on the knee, make the knee all very angular here. The rest of it's all kind of fine. Maybe like these aspects on like the front and back of the leg. You could try just making those a little bit more angular as well, but I think they're kind of okay as they are also. Let's see, just kind of like looking at this, trying to think of what else can maybe do for that. Yeah, I would also, as far as the chest goes, yeah, I think trying to fill out the chest in some way as well, because the strikes is like, yeah, different from the unicorns here. Unicorn's chest is like fairly like boxy. It doesn't have any like recessed areas in it, whereas the strikes does. Like the center part is recessed, the vents are recessed. So yeah, to make it look more like the unicorns, basically, I think you could just kind of turn this front center blue part, modify that to make it a bit more squared off, to kind of fill out this full space, and then bring that down to also fill this center space here as well. Or I mean, you could use that existing part and just like kind of pop it out more so that it's not a recessed space here in the center. And then just like some plot plate detail just over the vents just to cover those up basically. And then, you know, like scribe a line or something in there just to make it look like it's not just like a blocked off piece, but just to make the chest without any recessed areas, I think would also work pretty well. And then again here for the red part, the blue part's all pretty angular already, and then of course if you add like the modifications like we're talking about on the front, but the red part does kind of have this more curved look to it, especially like around the sides. So I think that as well, just kind of squaring that off just here on the sides a little bit. The head obviously of course going to be like a difficult part, but it looks like basically what you're thinking to do is just to keep generally the same shape for the sides of the head, and just making the face, let's see, yeah, making the face plate's going to be different just to turn this into, so basically you're just going to have to like scratch build a new like face cover part, and then just like a visor piece, and then just the unicorn horn itself, which I would have to go back and look at the kit. If like the V fin on the strike is just like plugged in via like one little square in the center, then it's easy to just like make a new horn and just pop in there instead. But if it's like more of a substantial shape of how this V fin plugs into the head, then that's like more that you're going to have to modify for that. But yeah, relatively straightforward, I suppose. As far as the backpack, I mean, like, the easy thing would be to just take a unicorn HG backpack, and just slap it onto the back of there. But if you don't want to do that, I think just basically because the unicorn, in unicorn mode especially, the backpack is pretty simple. So you could just take like a backpack part from even just like, I don't know, something, I would have to look around, but just taking like some kind of simple backpack from, I don't even know if there's anything. I'm trying to think if there's something like from a 30 minutes missions kit. There's any kind of like 30 minutes missions, this kind of simple backpack. I can't really think of anything, but just some simple backpack from some kind of something else you could slap onto there. And so long as it's just kind of small and doesn't necessarily like have, you know, like obviously like wings or anything too like extravagant to it, then it's kind of generally going to look somewhat like the unicorn's backpack, and then you just need to have it just painted in that dark blue, and I think that's going to pretty much do the job. RX-782's backpack, yeah, you could. The thing is, like with the beam saber racks on it, I'm just trying to think. Let's okay, we can brainstorm here for a second. Hang on. Let's go here. Let me put this up here instead. Go over here to good old Dalong and look at some of these HG kits. So, let's see. What's the Jim Kai's backpack look like? Yeah, I mean, like even like just something like that. I mean, that's pretty much it. That's kind of all that you would really need. It's a bit maybe too simple because it's basically just like a block there. But I mean, something along those lines is kind of really all you need. Honestly, maybe the Blue Destiny would be another good one to look at too. Let's see. one of those, any one of them really, but they're probably all going to be slightly different. So maybe this one. Yeah, maybe a little bit too simple with that, but you get the idea. You also kind of have just kind of look at what's available. The Blue Destiny, this is the Blue Destiny Unit 3. It's basically like it's like a more bulky version of the Gundam Mark II's backpack, sort of. And so that's too much. But you can look around for some different ideas. I'm not sure what else might be a good fit. I think the Nemo's also is not quite right. Yeah, that's no good. But there's certainly different options, and like I said, I think honestly probably just like some kind of build option set or 30 minutes missions is probably a good place to look. It's probably a good, like, simple, very like utilitarian looking simple backpack set that would do the job really, for just being just like a placeholder for just kind of basic looking backpack on the back. I think it's this one, right? Where like at the core of this unit is like just a simple backpack piece. And that, yeah, it's maybe like too simple there as well. Anyway, I think you could find something pretty good amongst something like that. But yeah. Yeah, Dalong doesn't have 30 minutes missions. Yeah, I don't think so. Not that I've noticed. So he should. It's a shame. But I'm sure that just doing all the stuff that he does do keeps him busy enough. But yeah, so it's definitely an interesting concept, Marine. So looking forward to seeing some more work on that in the future, even if it's not for the contest, but just in the future, I think it'll be an interesting one. As far as the decals go, I would say, yeah, some because it's in 1/44 scale. I mean, some decals would be good. I wouldn't say to completely not do decals, but I would say, I mean, it'd be difficult to do like a completely like Verka style decal scheme on 1/44 scale, get like that. It's of course possible, but I get where you're thinking is like you're not even wanting to do, because like looking at just that artwork of the Unicorn Gundam in Unicorn mode there without any markings on it. I mean, it does look good without anything, but I would maybe add a few here and there. All right, lastly, we've got Justin's build here. Let's take a look at this. Okay. Put this on here for you guys. So this is... Okay. Yeah. There we go. Justin's build of the RG Destiny Impulse Quantum. He's calling it. This is for his online GBWC entry. So I can pretend I'm a GBWC judge here right now. So first of all, it's in one pose for the entire of the different photos here, which I approve of. I don't remember if that's a requirement for GBWC. Do they require you, if you're submitting online, to have the kit entirely all in one pose? And you're not allowed to change the pose for it? I don't recall. But interesting. What's better, kits with polycaps or without? Jake Chan in the chat asking what my opinion is on kits with or without polycaps. I'm not sure if he's just joking, because he knows that I freak out when people ask that. But yeah, no, my opinion is one of non-opinion, as I really don't care if the kit has polycaps or not. I just want the kit to do what it needs to do and look good doing it. And if it has polycaps, then that's fine. If it doesn't have polycaps, then that's fine. That's how my opinion goes on that. Okay, as for Justin's RG Impulse here, Impulse Destiny Quantum, right? Did I get that right? Just double check. Yeah, Destiny Impulse Quantum, right? Okay, so let's see. So first of all, it's a combination of, oh, there was, I think this is like Adam and I were struggling over this. There was the RG Destiny Impulse Gundam, right, which was used. So that was the base kit for this, the RG Destiny Impulse. So I was going to say that's not the wings from the Destiny Gundam. So like kind of. Anyway, in general, it's like a combination of the Destiny and the Impulse. But for this release, the wings are a little bit different. And at least like the main difference is then also going to just be the colors. And are those cannons also added onto there? I'm going to have to look this up here again real quick. The cannons are not custom on there. Those are a part of the kit, aren't they? Okay. So just trying to look, just because I'm not familiar with the base kit that well. So I want to be able to make sure that I can tell like what's actually custom and what's just like a part of the original kit. But it looks like it's mostly all the original kit. Yeah, hang on. I believe so. Man, I'm getting blown up with spam calls today. I don't know what's going on. All right, I'm just looking at some other photos of the stock kit just to try to figure out what's custom on here. Because the one thing that I'm not sure about is, aside from the weapons in the backpack, the blades on the forearm, are those a part of the original kit or not? That's what I'm not too sure about. Only change the blades and arms. Okay, well, there it is in the chat. All right, so they're blue. See, I don't know how to pronounce that. Anyway, Justin there in the chat. Bandai took liberties with the wings on this kit. So, I mean, I like the wings on this version of it. And yeah, looking at, so is the parts for the forearms, the blades are added or just modified? Because I'm trying to tell, like looking at it, the photos online, it looks like it does have blades on the back of the forearms or something. Yeah, it does, right? Yeah, because those are like the what it has on like the stock kit. It's like the blades that are like the boomerang blades of the Destiny Gundam that are like added onto the back of the forearms. But Justin's is modified here to be like a different blade, different kind of blade on there, basically, which looks nice. I mean, so, okay. So with the main modification just being the colors, basically, I will say I do really like the colors. So the colors work really, really well. That orangish yellow for the kind of accent color works really nicely. And like the different tones of blue and purple on there also look really nice with, is that some pre-shading? Is there some pre-shading or is that just kind of the lighting of the photo? It looks like maybe there's a bit of pre-shading going on. It's really nice. RG, I changed the arm blades to fit in the GN Qatar blades. I needed a reason to call it a custom for a contest. Yeah. Okay. There's a distinct lack of GN drive. That's true. The first attempt at pre-shading. Okay. So yeah, so it looks like there's pre-shading on it, but I know one of the things that you were dealing with was like a new like photo setup, right? And so I think the one thing that could really help this photo setup, I think, is some good like directional light, like from the angle of the camera, like from our viewing angle, because you have like some like the background and like the lighting of the kit is good, like from the surrounding area. It's just like this part like right that we're looking at is kind of like the darker area. So like right here, like this is where I'm directly looking at the kit that could use some more light, and it's just kind of dark here, so it's kind of hard to see the kit right here from this angle that we're looking at it. So even though like the space generally is lit well, it needs like just a nice like soft direct light onto the kit, I think. just to make it a little bit easier to see. Because looking at these photos here, it could be nice if just like this surface that we're seeing of the kit right here is just a little bit better lit. It's something you could also, I mean, depending on how you're taking your photos, you can also kind of adjust that in post as well. Just kind of brighten up the photo is another option, but I think it seems like just a light here would be good as well, just to fill it more from the front. But yeah, the colors, the decals on here look really nice. It looks like basically you stuck to like white decals on any of the colored sections, red decals on any of the white sections, which works pretty well. And not seeing, as far as I can tell, any kind of like silvering in the decals or anything like that. So I think it came out looking very nice. Let's see, we have some of the custom markings in and around on there. And yeah, like also I think, let's see. It looks like the panel lining is done in black over the entirety of the kit. Because of the color scheme and how nice a kind of like unique kind of pastel-y blue and purplish kind of shade of colors that you have going on there, I think like to do the panel lining also on like the white areas in just like a gray, or even like a light kind of bluish purplish gray or something like that, would have been nice as well, and not quite as dark and contrasting, but would have been as like a nice kind of accent to the color. And then kind of like a purplish gray kind of color here in the light blue sections as well. For the purple, because it's a little bit darker, you're not really going, no matter what color you use. Well, if you're using like if you're using like a purplish gray kind of color, it's just not going to show up very much on that purple color. So you would have to use something a little bit darker, like a darker gray kind of color. So a little bit more limited for that. But for like the white and the blue sections, doing some like custom color for the panel lining, I think also could have been a nice kind of accents to the main armor color, basically. But yeah, again, something to look into for another, if you're ever doing another build with like a kind of similar color scheme like this. Actually, I just finally, after talking about it for like a week, just got the gloss coat done on my MGSD Barbatos. It's gonna be hard to kind of show you guys, but that's one of the things that, speaking of like doing your panel lining in this particular way, one of the things that I'm going to be doing with the MGSD Barbatos that I'm working on is like for the blue armor, using like a purplish kind of color for the panel lining, and like on the tan, so I have like the inner frame is all like a tan kind of color, and using like a dark brown. So you're not always necessarily limited when it comes to the color that you're using for panel lining to like black, brown, and gray. Those are like the most common colors, but you can certainly, custom mix any color that you want. And that definitely gives you a lot of options, especially when you're doing like a bit more kind of like stylish builds like this. Obviously, if you're painting like a Zaku 2 and you want to make it look like it's been like in combat on Earth, like on the ground, then you want to do like your panel lining in a way that looks kind of more realistic. But if you're not necessarily going for like a more like earthy, realistic kind of weather to build, and you're just wanting to make some like interesting and stylish colors, then certainly being a bit more creative with the color that you're using for your panel lining as well can also work as a nice accent to the build too. So anyway, I think it looks good. Yeah, I do really like the custom color scheme on this, especially as like I said, that's like the main customization point to it. But the customization to the blades also works really well. I don't know if you saw, it was I think the last live stream build that Adam and I were doing on the USA Gundam TV channel when we were talking about the Destiny Impulse Gundam, I think because it was the kit that we were giving away in the last episode. And Adam mentioned that he likes the beam boomerangs, and I was saying that I don't. It's one aspect of the Destiny Gundam that I've just never really been a fan of, those beam boomerangs. So I'm certainly not disappointed to see those gone. and to see these different beam kind of blade effects added onto there for the forearms. They look good. They look cool. So yeah, and cool pose. But it's just I think some better lighting I think would also help to just kind of show off the kit a little bit nicer as well. All right, that's it for today's episode. So yeah, different pen line colors. Yeah, for the white. Also, let's see. I'm just trying to think if I have any kind of build coming up where I'm going to be doing anything quite like that on like a white or a lighter color. Well, I did that on the Epion. So if you guys saw my video showing off the my painted RG Epion, I used as I mentioned in that video, a purplish gray color that I custom mixed for the panel lining color for that. It would be a good example. As far as anything else coming up that I think I might be using that on, maybe you might see some coming up, maybe. So I'll let you guys know. I'm hoping to do the Fiddler Crab Jewy. Yeah, the Fiddler Crab would be a good kit to do a really cool kind of very unique, stylish paint scheme for that. But definitely, yeah, we'll work on that. But there is a master grade Gelgoog build that I want to paint that has the conversion parts. I don't have the conversion parts here. It's at home with the build, but it's one of these, like this, one of these Project V Project V hobby 3D printed conversion sets, like I did here for the Jim Cannon. It's like one of those, but a set for converting the MG Gelgoog into the Regelgoog. So I want to get that painted as well. So on that one, what I'm thinking to do, I could also show off some, like a little bit more different kind of unique panel line color for that. But anyway, yeah, that's the topic for a different day. For today, anyway, guys, thanks so much to all of my supporters on Patreon and to those of you guys who submitted your works today. Thank you so much. Hopefully the feedback was helpful, interesting for you guys, as always. And of course, again, if you're interested in submitting works for any future episodes, you can check out the link in the video description to the Patreon page. And again, you can also get access to our Discord there as well. And it really helps out a lot. So thank you guys all so much. And hope you guys had a great weekend. This week is Thanksgiving. If you guys saw the video that just went up just this afternoon on my channel here, I was talking about the USA Gundam store sales that are going to be going on this week. But aside from that, I've got a lot of stuff that I'm working on just for my own channel as well. So there's that. Yeah, my Barbatos, I'm hoping to finish up this week, so you guys should see that hopefully by the end of the week. My MGSD Barbatos. And yeah, like I said, the painting tutorial series also. I know talking about it, I'm working on it. I am working on it, so that'll be coming out as well. But I think that's it for today, guys. So thank you all so much. The next live stream will probably build, if nothing else happens between now and then, the next live stream will probably be live building this guy. Everything's all ready, but I just don't know which day yet it's going to be. It'll either be possibly tomorrow or Wednesday will probably be the next live stream build, and it'll be that MG Age 1 full Glanza. So look forward to that. And it's going to be it, I think. So we'll see you guys later. Have a good one. Bye, guys. Thank you.